From Adversity to Abundance, hosted by entrepreneur and seasoned real estate investor Jamie Bateman, is the ultimate guide for active and passive investors seeking clarity, mental fitness, and the confidence to make inspired decisions in the world of real estate. With a decade plus of investing experience across various niches and a background as a combat veteran, former Army officer, and multi-million-dollar mortgage note company owner, Jamie brings a wealth of knowledge and inspiring stories to each episode. Through weekly episodes featuring insightful interviews with industry leaders and solo explorations of mindset and strategy, listeners will uncover actionable advice and tips to overcome challenges and build lasting financial success. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting, From Adversity to Abundance is your roadmap to turning obstacles into opportunities and achieving financial freedom.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the From Adversity to Abundance podcast. I am your host, Jamie Bateman, and today we have with us Brad Andrus. Brad is the founder of Northbridge, a commercial real estate company, as well as several other companies that we're going to touch on as we hear from Brad. Brad, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Jamie.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun conversation. I know we're going to get a lot out of this. I know you've been an active entrepreneur and real estate investor for decades now.
I can't believe it's been decades, but it has. Yeah.
The 2.5 decades really we're coming up on, it sounds like. So why don't you talk for the listener briefly before we jump into your backstory? Can you talk about some of the abundance that you're living in, that you've been able to experience and benefit from? I know there's been a ton of ups and downs and hard work. We're going to get
Sure.
into that. But today, how are you able to live in abundance?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I was just talking to, I've got a couple of young guys on our team and was having a conversation like this with them recently. And I just, the best example I could come up with, really the way I feel like my life is playing out right now is I'm really grateful and been, fortunate that I can kind of look at a mature fruit tree, if we want to use that example, and it's actually more than one tree. It's a little small orchard of fruit trees.
Nice.
That I can go out and kind of look at and look at the growth and what's become of them, and more than anything, see the fruit hanging off those trees. If it's an apple tree, be able to pluck that apple and nice juicy bite of apple, and enjoy that and give me some nourishment, right? And so that's where I feel like I am. This orchard tree or this orchard is not as large as others may have their orchards. The trees may not be as big and as mature, but for me, where they are right now, I really enjoy kind of where it is, and I still want to continue to grow that orchard and let those trees grow and mature even more. But really, what I'm describing is the fruits of a lot of labor, many years, and hard work and stress and toil to get to where there's a multitude of investments that are now paying dividends, and I can look around and I can see the cash flow from this one, or hey, over there, it's not cash flowing, but I see the appreciation in that one that's happening over here. Like, I know I've got a ton of equity in that. So if I need to go do something that requires some immediate cash, I can pull from it. I've got a line of credit secured by this one that I can. So all these things that have kind of built up over time, allow me to continue to really grow that orchard and those investments. But also on the personal side, we're recently now empty nesters and having the freedom that being investing in real estate and some other companies that we'll talk about has allowed us to, we get to go travel and take off and do what we want, both have the time to do it and fortunately the finances to do it.
No, I love that analogy. And so the trees in the orchard may be a particular investment or also a business, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. My path has been, and part of this is I think pretty common for
Mhm.
entrepreneurial minded people.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of value in being laser focused on something,
Right.
but I can't really do that. I
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
I have a hard time staying laser focused. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm distracted and I don't care still about this, but
Right.
I'm always, new ideas, new
Right.
things
Right.
going on. And so that has created this orchard where it's not all apple trees. There's
Hmm.
apples, there's pears, there's
Right.
cherries, there's, all kinds of different trees that are paying
Yeah.
different
Well, I
dividends.
love that it sounds like though, even though you still have that drive to build and create, and I'm guessing that will
Mhm.
never go away, but it sounds like you've been able to at least step back and
Yeah,
you mentioned traveling, take some time off and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And,
right.
I think that's where maybe some entrepreneurs just can't seem to do that. And it's just drive, drive, drive. And I mean, what's it all for if you can't enjoy it?
That is a question that I have to ask myself, and I've had others ask me, just kind of helping me,
Right.
mentors over the years, like when's enough enough? And so
Yeah.
those are things that everybody's got to wrestle with
Right.
and fight with. And
Right.
like you said, I think for those of us that are kind of built in this way
Hmm.
to go and
Yeah.
create and build, it's a tough thing to wrestle with,
Right.
and I still struggle with it. And so I'm trying to balance that and find that right
Yeah.
balance. And
Well, and I think, and we'll jump back into your backstory in a minute, but I think that's for one, one of the things we talk about on the show is that there's no single, prescription or way to get to
right,
success. And two, success, you may define success differently than I do, and that's okay.
sure,
And also, you have seasons in your life, I have seasons in my life. And so just because you were laser focused on this 10 years ago doesn't mean you need to be laser focused on that or anything in particular right now. So,
right,
it's we success does leave clues, but it's not a one size fits all model for certainly if you look across someone's entire life
for sure.
um, and across the entire population. There's so many variables and ways to succeed and be
Yeah.
fulfilled and serve others. So, um, Brad, you mentioned to me before we hit record the year you mentioned the year 2001. Let's jump back there and let's talk about your backstory because I know you've had some real trials and tribulations. We've talked about some of the successes you're currently
Yeah.
enjoying, but it has not been easy. So, what did 2001 look like for you? What was your just paint the picture for us?
Yeah. So graduating college from Brigham Young University, my wife and I had been married probably about a year. I guess it was about a year before graduation. No,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, about 2 years. I had about 2 years left when we got married. We had our first kid about a year, 8, 9 months before graduation. And, coming out of kind of the market in general was good, but we were kind of coming out of that dot-com little
Mm,
bubble. And so
yeah.
it wasn't a terrible time to be job hunting, but it probably wasn't the best time either. And so,
Mhm.
uh, really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My undergrad was in marketing and advertising. I'd always been a little more on the creative, enjoyed more the creative side of things. And
Mhm.
so thought, hey, that's where I wanted to work for an ad agency. I grew up in the Dallas area, knew that we knew that we wanted to move back to Texas. And so started looking around where I could find a job like that. Ended up working, starting with a community bank as their
Okay.
really it was a very small community bank, probably about 150 million in assets at the time.
Hmm.
And they had just gotten to the size where they needed kind of this full-time marketing person. It had been spread amongst some of the team there. And so I
Right.
was their marketing director, which sounded like a really great title coming right out of college.
Right.
And
Right.
it was a great opportunity. But that's kind of where I got started. As I started working for the bank, started kind of looking around again. I'm pretty much focused on the marketing side of things, but started looking around and realizing there's a lot of real estate things going on and other businesses,
Mm-hmm.
people that are walking in, what business are they in? Banking, I ended up over the course of probably the next 16, 17 years, or 15 years, I guess, working at two different community banks. And that
Okay.
ended up being an amazing foundation for a variety of reasons that we can get into. But one of them was that I got to see a lot of investors,
Mm.
entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
borrowers, and
Yeah.
it was just always amazing to me that the variety of ways that people were making money.
Right. Right.
And, you might have two guys in the same exact industry. This was another real learning lesson for me, is like two guys in the same industry, same market, and one of them is wildly successful and the other's just essentially living, paycheck to paycheck, even
Sure.
if he's an entrepreneur, has his own business and living
Right.
job to job. And what's the difference here? What's going? Well, it's really that guy. It's the
Hmm.
operator, how his
Hmm.
mindset and how disciplined he is and the way he goes about running his business. So I was picking up these little clues along the way, but
Yeah.
that's kind of where I really started. My eyes started. I'd never had any interest in real estate. Didn't really know anything about it.
Sure.
Didn't have really big aspirations to be an entrepreneur. I didn't.
Hmm.
I just was a creative guy wanting to be kind of
Yeah.
marketing, advertising.
Yeah. Well, I love that what you just said about the two different, two guys that you're comparing there, just because so many people, I mean, certainly are a ton of external factors that we can't
Sure.
control, right? I mean, and we're going to talk about 2008 to, and
Yeah.
how that affected you. But at the end of the day, like there is a lot you can control and focus on, and there's a lot that you can do as an individual to impact the success of your business and those around
Right.
you. So that's I love that. Um, yeah, I can relate in a lot of ways. I got out of college and worked for a title company for a couple of years and started seeing real estate investors and like, wait, this seems pretty cool,
Yeah.
but I did work a W-2 for 14 years and slowly got into the real estate game. And but yeah, just kind of looking around and realizing like this is really interesting. How are these people doing this? And
Yeah. Well,
didn't
so
really know what I
Jamie,
wanted to do either. Yeah.
yeah, you'll really appreciate this story. I don't know if your listeners will enjoy it as much, but I think you might. My first real estate deal was
Hmm.
my primary home, our
Hmm.
first home that we bought,
Sure.
as a family. And so, again, that was right in 2001. I graduated in the spring, got this job in the fall, and later, within a few months, we were like, let's buy a home. We were renting a little duplex, and let's buy a home. So was working with a mortgage guy that was at the bank,
Hmm.
and kind of talking through him. He was getting the loan approved, going through that process, and everything was tracking along. I get this call one day, eh, yeah, this is Kim with Denton County Title. I'm like, okay. And she says, I'm calling to schedule your closing. I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm working with Phil over here at the mortgage company. And she's like, well, no, I know, but my job is to anyway describe basically what she does as a title agent,
Yeah.
uh, escrow officer, and I'm
Mhm.
just like lost. And so I'm like, hey, I tell you what, I'll get back with you. I don't
Right.
know if this is it wasn't, I
If it's
wasn't a word.
legitimate.
I wasn't thinking it was a scam, but I was just
Right.
like, I don't know where this all falls together.
Yeah.
And so called Phil, the mortgage guy, and he's like, yeah, this is the
This
normal
is,
thing. This
yeah.
is
I
the
mean,
way it goes. Didn't
it's
know
something.
anything about buying real
Yeah,
estate. That was my
exactly.
first
And
exposure.
I
Yeah.
realized that very quickly. I mean, my father was a real estate agent, all the whole time I grew
Right.
up. So like you would think I would know slightly, maybe more than the next person the same age as me, but no, I knew nothing. I mean, I had no idea what a HUD-1 was. I didn't
Right.
understand anything about title insurance, and they don't teach any of this in school. So,
No.
at least they didn't for me.
No. Well, not
And
my degree anyway. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, just opened up my eyes, and it's really important information. Even if you're not going to be an investor, if you're just going to buy a house,
Yeah.
But anyway, so okay, so you worked for two different community banks, and that was how did that progress?
Yeah, there was a little gap. So basically, again, towards the end of that first working with that first bank, that I left that job in 2006.
Hmm.
Uh, Probably the last year and a half of that job, I had actually transitioned to the lending side,
Okay.
as a consumer lender, but primarily doing commercial real estate lending.
Okay.
And so, that again was just another great step in the direction I wanted to go,
Sure.
that I started realizing I wanted to go, of understanding real estate. from 2001 to then, I'd started buying some rent houses, built a couple of duplexes. And so started after buying our first home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a buddy call me. He's like, hey, I think we could do this, buy this old house and add on to it, turn it into a duplex. We did
Nice.
that together. And that was just like, I'm hooked,
Eye-opening. Yeah.
totally hooked. So started doing that for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years and got into the lending side on the bank. And at that point, it's like, all right, I've got a little war chest here. I've got some things already going. I'm ready to go out on my own and do this
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
myself. And didn't really, a little young and naive for sure, didn't really give enough thought to what would be the best path to eventually being out on your own if you're going to do this. I just had an opportunity through a bank customer said, hey, we could go build some houses together. You've got a little capital, you've got a little know-how. I know how to build some houses. Let's go do it. So sounds good to me. That
Right.
sounds better than sitting behind that desk at the bank all day. And so
Absolutely.
left the bank and started building houses. We probably
Okay.
built 70, 80 houses, some
Wow.
duplexes and different
Wow.
things,
Okay.
and most of which we were just selling to others, and so that was going okay. Wasn't
Yeah.
great, wasn't terrible. Realized I didn't love. I love working with people, but I'm kind of a people pleaser, and so if you're building a home for
Mm-hmm.
someone and
Yeah.
you're always trying to make them happy,
Right.
you can't make any money
You
that
can't.
way. You can't make them happy anyway, but you certainly
No.
can't try and make money along the way doing
Oh,
that. And
right.
so,
Right. For sure.
but anyway, that whole world really came to kind of a screeching halt in 2008. I
Yeah.
was already starting to think this isn't really what I want to do long term, but 2008 made the decision for me. Like, all right, get out of that little deal. So that kind of was my little world that I built. I kept my rent houses but everything
Yeah.
else, my little war chest that I had built, kind of even the dreams I had, kind of got crushed right
Yeah,
there.
I mean, talk about that. And this is, the show is From Adversity to Abundance. And
Yeah,
as I remember 2008, but maybe some of our listeners might quickly read about it, but not really
yeah.
appreciate what all was going down. Uh, I mean, how did that? I mean, you said you were already not loving what you were doing, but really mechanically, how did that,
Well,
crush everything?
where it really impacted me, and certainly has been now a lifelong lesson from it. One of the lessons, but where it really impacted me is, as a home builder, and again, call ourselves a home builder. We weren't anything major, but
Hmm.
we were building houses.
Well, you were
We
building
were
homes, yeah.
Yeah, we were building homes, so we're a home builder.
Hmm.
So 2006 and 7, I mean, the market is frothy and just blowing and going, and builders couldn't find really lots to build on. And
Hmm.
if you're building homes for a living, you need inventory, you need houses to sell.
Hmm.
Well, before that, you need lots
The
to
lot,
build them on,
yeah.
right? And there wasn't a lot of options. We had done like a 20 lot little redevelopment of a property, and we'd kind of built through that by about 2007. And it was like looking for more opportunities. Well, we ended up saying we need to control some of our lot inventory,
Mm.
control our own destiny on that front. And by the way, we can make some money. We can
Hmm.
develop this piece of land for this, and then build a little profit margin when we roll that lot into the house. So great idea. I think it works well in a lot of
Most
situations,
of the
but
time. Right,
most of the time in 2008, the spigot, just got turned off. It
right.
felt like almost overnight. And those lots that we hadn't even finished developing, that we were thinking, well, we'll sell these for 45, 50,000. I mean, practically couldn't give them away,
Wow.
a few
Yeah,
months later. By the
right.
time we actually finished those lots, I mean, I couldn't find, we weren't building houses anymore. The lending side of things for spec home, new construction,
Yeah,
it's softened.
right
The
up.
mortgage,
Right,
the mortgage world had kind of imploded. And
right.
so it was affecting, buyers and certainly builders in a roundabout way. And so, but where I really got stung
Mhm.
was having several of these land development tracks that had no way of cash flowing,
Mhm.
and you've got debt against it. that's just mounting up and just eating you alive, right? So that's where I really got stung. I think had I not had those things, I mean, again, I did manage to hold on to the small, I don't know, maybe 10 rent house portfolio that I had at the time.
Right.
And that helped a little bit because I
Right.
mean, I still had debt on all those, but each one of them might have been throwing off after debt service and expenses, maybe a couple $100. And so
Right. Right.
cumulatively, there was something there.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
certainly enough to keep those paid for, but
Right.
over here on the other side,
Well, maybe those were some of the seeds that led to your current
for
orchard.
sure.
So two things on the, on the 2008 front. One, if you want to get, you can get as specific as you want, of course, but income or net worth wise, what were things looking like beforehand and then after? And then the second question is more
Yeah.
just kind of what would you do differently? It's almost an unfair question. Nobody saw the crash
Yeah.
coming like it did,
Yeah.
but what were your lessons learned and what would you do differently if you had to do it all over again? But question
Yeah.
number one, like really financially, how did it impact you?
Yeah. I would say that, and again, I was still, early in
Right.
my
You were
wealth
young.
building,
Right.
it's still what, I don't know, 27, 28. So it
Right.
wasn't like I'd had decades under my belt that I was losing millions and millions of dollars. But for
Right.
me, it was everything pretty much everything I had. Again, just fought tooth and nail to hang on to some
Right.
of these investment properties I had. But I don't know. Probably if I had to, I could go back and look. I've saved all these financial statements over the
Hmm.
years, but probably, might have been showing maybe $1 million of net worth at the
Hmm.
time. And we had built home building company where I think I was drawing about $120,000, basically 10
Hmm.
grand a month as a salary. Plus, when a house sold, I'd get little pops. That my income might have been a couple of hundred, two
Yeah. Well, I
fifty in any
appreciate you
given
sharing
year.
that. I mean, that's more money, that was a couple, it was 2.5 decades ago or 2 decades
Yeah,
ago almost rather.
yeah,
So I mean, that's good money for a 27-year-old, right? Uh,
yeah. But it all went pretty much flushed
just
down the toilet.
vanished.
Again, some of that, again, that those rent houses and the value kind of equity I had in that
Yeah.
stayed, but cash went away. Uh, Most of any other assets, anything that didn't have some income producing component to it, I had to
Hmm.
let go. I had to work deals with the bank and get out of them, and
Hmm.
so it was some dark days. I mean,
Hmm.
so I don't know, that literally that probably took my net worth down to, I mean, I was still positive, I'd say, but
Hmm.
only because of some of
Barely.
those rent houses. And so
Right.
maybe a hundred to two
Yeah.
hundred thousand dollar positive net worth,
No, I appreciate you
and
sharing that.
income to zero,
Zero.
essentially shut that
Right.
thing down. And now it's
Yeah.
negative, all negative, money going
Right.
out the door, nothing coming in.
Right. Right. So before we get into lessons learned or what you would do differently, how did that financial crash, and I'm talking yours personally, how did
Yeah.
that impact your family life and your personal life?
It's hard not to separate those things,
Yeah.
it really is difficult. And even over the last couple of decades, as things have gotten trended, in a much more positive direction, you're still there's always little valleys here and there. And
Hmm.
it's, for me, it's always been important to kind of not bring that home. I mean, as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and the guy, the breadwinner, and kind of the guy that's it's tough to let
Right.
that go when you walk in the door. But man, nothing is more important than family
Hmm.
and relationships. And so,
Yeah.
we just got to fight to kind of check that at the door. But it was tough. I remember, breaking down to my wife and telling her kind of where things stood,
Hmm.
and it was definitely some hard and dark
Yeah.
days. That led me to, it forced me essentially back into banking. And I
Okay.
didn't hate banking, so it wasn't like it was a
Right.
terrible option. But the good news is, because I had built up a little bit of, relationship in the community and kind
Sure.
of was known. There were a couple of banks that said, yeah, if
Yeah.
you
Well, and you
want to
also
get
had
back into
banking
that,
experience too,
the
which
banking
helped.
experience to,
Yeah.
fall back on.
So,
So come 2008, I went back to work for
okay.
a community bank, a new
Yeah.
community bank.
Yeah. Well, so I guess it's sort of a two-part question, but could you have done anything? Did you really make mistakes leading into 2008? Like, I'm sure there were little mistakes, but I'm saying, really, could you have done anything differently? And if so, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty common. I don't know. For me, in my experience looking around, it's not unusual that guys will enter into some sort of partnership when they want to
Hmm.
go out and do something. And I value partnerships, a good partnership
Hmm.
tremendously.
Hmm.
And where each party or multiple parties are bringing their strengths. Okay, we've got some weaknesses, but you can offset that. But they're
Yeah.
bringing something to the table. What I learned, and so if I had known a little bit better,
Hmm.
uh, the partnership I went into to do the home building thing wasn't a good partnership.
Mm. Gotcha.
There was just a little bit of it wasn't good because while I had a little war chest, I didn't have deep enough pockets to really
Hmm.
fund this operation. And so
Right.
what we needed was a true capital partner that could have carried that piece. Uh, Not to mention the kind of the partner that had the know-how and the building side of things just didn't quite turn out to be what I'd hoped he was. And so
Gotcha.
um, I could have picked a better
Hmm.
partner or
Yeah.
partnership is
Right.
one. And the other thing that I couldn't have done, I outside of having a partner, which could have helped.
Hmm.
And I remember talking about this in one entrepreneurship class I had in college that, an entrepreneur was like, hey, would you rather have 50% of this big number or 100% of this
Right.
tiny number?
Right. Right.
Well, give me
Yeah.
50%. So we should have opened the door and said, hey, somebody come in
Hmm.
with this land deal with us. You can make some money and you take more of the risk and bring the capital to do it.
Hmm.
But we didn't do that. We tried to do it on our own. And so I don't know if I mean, I can see now
Yeah,
where the
no, and the
wisdom
goal the
is.
goal is not to beat you up, and it's
No, yeah.
easy to look back and say, "Oh, this is what you did wrong, Brad." It's like, but we're trying to, you know, there are going to be may not be 2008 exactly, but there are going to be, similar challenges ahead for people. So,
I
that's
think the big lessons, I mean, yeah, find good partners if you're gonna go into partnerships, but also just go well, be well capitalized. And that's
yeah.
where a lot of times the partnerships come from,
Hmm.
is one guy. I've got the ideas, I got the know-how, but I don't
Right.
have the capital. So I
Sure.
need I need the capital partner. So
Yeah.
be well capitalized in whatever you're doing. And you don't have to use all your own money all the time, and
Hmm.
keep that war chest for the
Yeah.
rainy days or for other investments and
Yeah. And I think a
opportunities.
lot of, especially younger real estate investors and entrepreneurs, don't necessarily see it from the capital partner's perspective and see the fact that you're solving a problem for them if it
Right.
assuming it's a good partnership, but you're bringing a lot to the table and they
Exactly.
need you, they
Sure.
so it's I think it can be easy for people to say, well, why would they want to give their money to me? It's like, well, no,
Yeah.
you're providing value to them as well. So we don't have time to cover all the ups and downs of your career. We're
Yeah.
definitely going to hit on and dive into some of the other things you have going on now.
Okay.
Um, but kind of quickly walk us through from, that second banking phase of your career
Yeah.
through today. What are some of the companies you've created and how have things gone since then?
Yeah. So in 2008, went back into banking full time and really again I tried to be as honest with my employer at that time. Hey, look, I've always invested in some real estate. I'd like to continue to do it. I'm not in a great spot to do that right now, but as things improve, I'd like to do that. So I was very upfront with them about
Hmm.
that, and they were very great about it and said, hey, as long as you come to us as your primary lender, we get the opportunity to do it if we want to do it,
Hmm.
and so I really started kind of rebuilding both the cash war chest, but also starting to build that portfolio up a little bit more. And it
Nice.
was it was almost exclusively single family rentals at
Okay.
that time, and and mostly in the town that I lived in.
Hmm.
In a smaller town outside of Denton. We lived in Crum at the time, and this little town, didn't have any real apartment complexes or anything. I knew so many people there, very well connected in the community, and I found over the 15-ish years from the first one I bought to when I sold them all, I'll get into that. I don't know, upwards of 20, 25 rentals during that time. I mean, I might have experienced, I could count on one hand, probably the number of months of vacancy across the portfolio that I experienced. It
Wow.
was just there's very limited supply. And so
Sure.
strong market from that sense. And so enjoyed that. But as I was working in the banking in that bank, that second bank, I really got more and more exposed to commercial real estate.
Okay.
Doing more of that lending, also, some of the business lending. And by about 2012, 13, started kind of getting those thoughts back in my head again. I don't think I want to do this forever. It's a good job. I was working with a great bank, good people. I could have been there my whole career. There's no doubt about it. Family life was happy. Everything was going well, but it's like it wasn't totally scratching all the entrepreneurial itches, So I was fortunate to work with a commercial broker in town who he was referring me business. I'd refer him business. It was a good relationship. He kind of approached me in about 2013 and said, "Hey man, the market's really picking back up. I think you'd be really good in commercial brokerage." I never thought about that. I'm like, that's 100% commission, right? He's like, yeah, but, and so it took him a couple of years, really, of talking to me, kind of coaching me through it, guiding me what it would look like. And ultimately him coming up with a structure that kind of put a little floor in it. And so I left banking in 2015 to go into commercial real estate brokerage. As an agent, basically a two-man shop, and I was his right-hand man, learning that business and understanding it. And one of the things that he felt like was important, but never wanted to mess with or touch, was property management and being somewhat vertically integrated in that way, because he would find, hey, he'd represent a client on a retail center that they'd buy, then they would go hire XYZ management company. He might stay on as the leasing, but over time, they were spending a lot more time talking and working with the property manager, who might also have some brokerage in there. And he would start losing clients that way. And then when they go to sell, they're talking to the property manager about selling, and maybe their broker that's in-house. And so wanted to be a little more sticky in that way. And so I said, that's a business I've always thought would be interesting. I've got my own portfolio that I think is at the point where I was managing it all myself. I'd love to have some help doing that. And so we started the property management company at that time. That's Northbridge. That's where the Northbridge came from. And so that's become a lot more, but at the time it was property management.
So, and that was both residential and commercial property management?
It was primarily commercial, but we definitely took residential on. We were managing my rent houses, and then we had a couple of other small, one fairly large multifamily complex, but we knew pretty early in, like, we want to be commercial. We want to live in the commercial world,
the commercial space. Yeah.
It took us a few years to kind of get totally 100% there, but yeah.
Gotcha. Would you say, now I'm much more familiar with, the residential space, but would you say property management as a whole can be very lucrative in and of itself, or is it primarily that you're kind of that sticky point, if you will, like you already said, that you can really benefit financially from other sources because you have the property management arm?
Yeah. We have found that it's not a very profitable business.
Okay.
I mean, now I want to talk a little bit about AI and some things we're using AI in that business to help us be more efficient. But it historically has been a pretty, quote unquote, labor intensive business. I mean, you get a certain number of properties, and that's more than this one person can handle. So you got to hire another person.
Right.
Like every time you get up to a level where you're just starting to make some money, you really need to hire another person.
Right.
And so it's always chasing that around. And so we pretty much acknowledged that and understood that almost from the beginning. But I'll say this, there are so many other benefits to having property management, from my perspective, from having a property management company than the actual dollars. What it does provide us is this really strong foundation of cash flow. So I mean, that's
It's
we can count on
revenue,
this cash flow,
keep the
reoccurring
lights
revenue.
on, right?
keep the lights
absolutely.
on, keep the operation going,
Yeah.
including a really strong team of people. So
Nice.
we manage a lot of third-party properties, but we also manage everything that we
Right.
buy, and
Right.
we pay ourselves a fee to do that. But it's really in-house now. I get to see it, touch it, feel it,
Hmm.
on a regular basis, what's
Yeah.
going on, know exactly what's going on. The other thing it does is like I was describing, is it does make us really sticky in that brokerage world.
Hmm.
It gives us not only in the brokerage world, as we become more and more investors and doing some of our own development things,
Yeah.
we find that through the management company we get opportunities
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
and
I mean,
invest.
on a lesser scale, and I'm in the Baltimore, Maryland area, but yeah, my property manager, we've had many conversations about, do I want to partner with him, or, how could this go? But I've seen where I've referred many different clients to him for different things, property management. He has a rehab arm, and then just,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying I haven't benefited from him either, but it's just I can see how he's benefited in many ways just being a property manager. So you mentioned
Well,
AI.
I want to just make one more mention, and
Yeah.
this is as a real estate investor. So I basically, by 2017, I said I want to do a 1031. I want to sell all my rent
Hmm.
houses, and
Hmm.
exchange into commercial.
Yeah.
But I believe that some of the success that I enjoy in commercial real estate investing
Hmm.
comes from, one, my work in brokerage, and
Hmm.
two, my work in property management. And we've
Hmm.
got a team that really runs it. I don't do a lot of the actual management, but again,
Yeah.
around it, talking about it enough.
Right.
I mean, when you run a property management company, you get to live
Yeah.
like the nitty gritty
You
of
see
what it takes
everything.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
and what it takes for a property to be successful. I
Right.
mean, you see, what tenants value
Right.
out of a property. You see the pitfalls of deferred maintenance. You start to
Right.
really understand the
Yeah.
fundamentals
For
of how
sure.
you can make a property good and keep it full. And
Uh,
so those both broker, and same thing with brokers, like you get to
mhm.
talk to tenants that are
Right.
saying, well, no, I don't like this property because of that. Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
file that away. Like, I don't want to buy a property because tenants don't
Right.
like
Right.
this.
That's good
So
intel.
those, as it's really honed my skills as an investor,
Yeah, that makes a lot of
by
sense. No, and
being in
my property
brokerage and
manager has a
management.
lot of his own investments, and he keeps adding because he knows what to look for. He knows what to buy.
Yeah.
And when we say property management, people may not everyone realizes, like, it's not just the property, and there's as you've alluded to, there's kind of the leasing arm as well as the actual property management. So,
Right.
and depending on how it's set up, and there are variables there, but there's really almost like a real estate agent side of it, and
Exactly.
then like the construction property management
Right.
side of it as well. So there's a lot going on there that it's a
A lot.
valuable position to be in. But you mentioned AI, and
Yeah.
I've been incorporating AI into my business a lot more, and just everyday life. I mean, it's
Amazing. Yeah.
amazing. It's really fascinating. I mean, I could talk about a lot about it, and
Hmm.
there's still frustration there, and it's never going to be
Hmm.
perfect, I don't think. But I'd love to talk to you about how you're incorporating AI into your business or businesses. I know you
Yeah.
have a podcast that deals with AI as
Yeah.
well. So for a couple minutes here, just the floor is
Yeah.
yours. Talk about AI, the present and the future, maybe.
Okay. A couple of minutes. Let me cram it in real quick.
Yeah.
No, everybody's hearing about AI and kind of, hey, we got to, it's such a buzzword, and I think for most of us, our first exposure is probably Chat GPT, and that
Right.
was certainly mine. About a year ago is when I really I was dealing with an issue on a property, a tenant issue, and I was like, I was asking one of my brothers, who kind of is also does a lot of real estate stuff, and I even starting to think about calling an attorney. He's like, hey, have you talked to or kind of interact with Chat GPT about this? I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I don't even think about that. And he's like, well, try it. And I did. And I'm like, whoa, it's got all the answers. It knows
Right.
exactly but I've since learned, no, it doesn't have all the answers. It's not
Right.
perfect, but it really did help me through that situation. And I was
Yeah.
able to work through it without, and I'm not suggesting that we don't need attorneys anymore,
Right.
but I was able to work
No.
through that particular
Yeah.
situation wasn't serious, real serious, but through the help of ChatGPT. And so that started this snowball of me looking around, talking to other people in my network, other smart guys and entrepreneurs, like, what are y'all doing? And we kind of all looked at each other like, we really don't know what to do. And so we put this little cohort together, and we just started just meeting at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, just brainstorming, talking about what we're doing. Hey, what tools have you tried? That's led to three of us now that we've got. It's called Weeks Ahead AI, and so yeah, that's our podcast.
Okay.
We think we might be weeks ahead of the average Joe, so to speak.
Right.
And so it's not like we're real tech experts or whatever, but we're just trying to test it and use it. One of the things that one of the ways we've used it, real tangible way we've used it, to give you an example, and then we can move on. But I talked about our property management team, and so we're managing upwards of 100 properties. These are commercial properties that you generate a large monthly property management report, sometimes 40, 50 pages. It's got the full balance sheet, income statement, rent roll, the full general ledger of all the transactions that have occurred in that month. And so there's a lot to compile and send out on a monthly basis to 60, 70 owners, probably not as many owners as there are properties, but and so it's a time consuming process. And Rebecca Andreessen, that leads our property management team, she's very detailed and very thorough, which is great in a property manager. But when she wants to review each and every one of those before it goes out with a fine tooth comb, make sure there's no error, it's just too much. I mean, she was spending days every month, reviewing kind of the reports that the accounting and the property management team were putting together for her final blessing before it goes out to the client.
Yeah.
Well, we built a tool, an agent, an AI agent, and that's kind of a lot of the ways we're thinking now is like the LLMs are great for a lot of things, but where you really move the needle is you build an agent that is very specific to do a very specific task. And this agent's sole job is to take that monthly report, review it for the 10 things we've asked it to look for, or make sure that the name is consistent throughout, make sure that, that there aren't any errors in the page numbering, some simple things. Other things are like, if there's a discrepancy in our budget versus actual by more than 5%, point that out to me. So we've built it to say, we're looking for these specific, basically what Rebecca was looking for when she went through the property.
Right.
And now, in a matter of minutes, it runs through it and it spits out, everything's ready, everything's good, or hey, amazing. Look at this area. And so it's taken her 2 days of review down to a few hours. And
so,
it's just
and
amazing.
For someone who's not, I'm weeks behind you, if you will. But for someone who's maybe weeks behind me, okay, LLMs are like ChatGPT,
Claude,
yeah,
the
all
large language models,
right, okay, and then to create an AI agent, not we're not going to get into the weeds on it, but how does one go about doing that?
Well, what we're telling people, and we're building some tools that if you jump in and listen to or get on our website weeksahead.ai, you can see some of what we're doing. But right now, one of the things that we found and we're finding beneficial as we network with other people is just having some guys, some programmers or engineers that we can refer people to. We don't really build. We're starting to build something that can kind of maybe a platform for people to build some agents and use. I think it'll be super beneficial. It's not really ready right now. So we hired an engineer.
Gotcha.
In that case, we paid him like $7,500. He built this tool for us, and that's all it is. And at the time, and it still does, it seems like such a bargain. But today, even 6-8 months later from when we built it, we probably could have that built for $2,000 or $3,000. And so the cost of some of these things, as engineers and programmers are getting more accustomed to doing them and using AI to help them do them, the cost is already coming down. But I would find a good programmer.
And did you go to like Upwork or something like that to find somebody like that?
We found a couple of guys through our network,
Gotcha.
And these are more local guys that for us, we're a little more known quantities, but
sure. So, I mean, for
platform
me, I
works.
think for a lot of people, I think that type of that advice you just gave is comforting because it's like this can be overwhelming, this whole AI
Yes.
thing. It's like I must be so far behind. I shouldn't even try. I can't code. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get lost in this. I'll just quit. It's like no, like you just said, you can hire people to do this, and work
And
for
there
them.
are times even when we're building that agent, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. It's not like,
Right,
hey, just here, go
right,
do
right,
this and it overnight it works. You
right.
gotta, it's really just like training an employee. You
Mm,
know,
yeah,
let's say instead I were to have hired a person that's their only job.
sure.
Well, day one, they're not going to be perfect at it. And
No,
they're going to, hey, I need you to make sure you're looking for this and don't do that. And that it took that same kind of process. It was probably a quicker learning curve, but same
sure.
kind of process with this
Yeah,
agent. But man, it's there
yeah.
forever for $7,500. It's just
No, I've gotten into I've lectured ChatGPT on some of my own principles, It's
yeah.
kind of fun. It's kind of funny how it goes. It's like I'm like, well, you said you would have it done, and by this
Oh,
date and you didn't. And it's like I really value when people do what they say they're going to do, but are you a person? I don't know. But we're almost out of time. I've really enjoyed this. I've got some rapid fire questions, Brad. Are
okay.
you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. If you were given $10 million today, it doesn't have to be used for anything in particular. What would you do with it?
Well, I think I would continue
Doing
scatter
what you're doing.
shooting. Well, yeah, I would scatter it amongst a variety of investments. I would certainly invest some in a safe, investment. It's liquid.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found that it's like I'm not very good at investing in the stock market. I've
Hmm.
just never had any luck personally trying to do that. So
Hmm.
I very much believe in anything you're going to do. If you don't really know what you're doing,
Yeah.
pay somebody that does it at a professional
Sure.
level, and that's really their business. So I'd go find a good investment money manager
Advisor.
guy,
Yeah.
advisor, and that's what I do, and I work with him, and he does a great job. I mean, and it's not like we're hitting home runs, but we're
Hmm.
10, 12 to 15% a year.
Right.
Maybe it's 8% on a low year.
Right.
But the other thing I do with that is I have them set up a line of credit against it.
Mm.
And
Nice.
I'm able to use that line of credit to go kind of be a little more nimble and still
Nice.
keep that growth going on over here.
Okay.
So I
I
would
like that.
definitely set some of that over there. I'd go buy some direct real estate that I own
Mhm.
solely, hire a good property manager. I know one in DFW if you need one. I would invest in some other businesses as well. The
Mhm.
success I've had in other startups outside of the ones that I've mentioned here that we've
Yeah.
been doing directly, the success I've had is identifying good operators,
Mm.
young guys that have been in an industry for 10, 15 years, know what they're doing, have relationships, are
Right.
hungry and they want to do something on their own, but they're kind
Right.
of working for the man, so to speak, right now.
Yeah.
Let's bring them over, pluck them out, back them with capital, back
Hmm.
them with just general business knowledge and
Yeah.
expertise, and watch them take off. And it has worked, really well
Well,
doing
there is a
that.
common theme here because you mentioned the partnership and how important it is, right,
Yep.
to pick the best, good partner. And then you mentioned hiring an engineer to do the AI
Mm-hmm.
work for
Mm-hmm.
you. And then you just talked about hiring operators. So, I don't think with all this AI talk, the people side of things is not going to
We
go
need good
away.
people,
It's
no
really
doubt.
important. So, um, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Mm. Focus on relationships.
Mm, that's
I,
great.
and that's true in our families, with our spouses, our
Yeah,
kids. But the people we hire are our coworkers. I mean, in real estate, our tenants. I mean, having a
sure.
good working relationship with your tenant. I mean, it makes
Right.
all the world of difference. You give them a little grace here, they're going to give you grace when the roof's
Sure.
leaking, or vice versa. So,
Right.
focus on relationships.
That's really good. Um, if you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
You have to be Jesus Christ.
There you go.
That'd be the best cup of coffee ever, I think.
It's tough to get better than that one.
Yeah.
Um, what's a struggle that you're facing or that you're dealing with in your business or professional life right now?
Well, I'm at and I'm not at retirement age, but I told you that we're recent empty nesters,
Hmm.
and starting to think about what the next 10 to 15 years looks like and what do I want that to look like. And so I've been grinding so hard and kind of head down, go, 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 go. But where do I want to go? And we talked a little bit about that, kind of trying to find that balance. It's a good problem to have, and it's fun to think about, but it is a challenge. How do I find a little more balance, and how do I, continue to build a team that allows me to have a little more of that leeway and freedom. So
Sure. Makes sense. How about a book or two that you could recommend for our listener?
I really like Atomic Habits.
That's a
for
great
those
one.
that
James
haven't,
Clear.
yeah, check that one out. AI first. I'm sorry. It's either Think AI or AI first. I think it's called Think AI first,
Okay.
something like that. You find it.
Gotcha.
And I'm drawing a blank on the author's name, but read that one recently, and that's become a kind of a mentality. The authors recognize this book is not going to age well. Like
Right.
everything's changing so rapidly. But the core principle was whatever challenge you've got, whatever you're facing, think about how AI, think first, how can AI help me through this? And that might just be brainstorming with your favorite LLM, or it may be, is there an agent I could build? And what we're finding, Jamie, is that there's really no limitations to what it can do. I mean, your only limitation is what you can think
that's
of.
what I've been trying to instill in my team as far as I don't know every way that even ChatGPT can help us, but ask ChatGPT, and
How can you help me? Yeah.
it's like, and it's just amazing what it can spit out. And then you are more specific with the next request that you give it. So,
AI first or Think AI. That was a good book.
Awesome. All right, Brad, this has been fantastic. Where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah. So mention the weeks ahead .ai. That's our AI focused stuff and our podcast, Weeks Ahead AI. That's always fun. I think really, really valuable information there. But personally, LinkedIn is the best way. So just Brad Andrus, Northbridge Commercial Real Estate. You'll find me on there. I'd love to connect with your listeners, and really enjoyed being on here and having this discussion with you today, Jamie.
And for those not watching, Brad's last name is Andrus. That's how it's spelled.
That's right.
Brad, thank you so much. Any parting words of wisdom for our listener?
So if you get on to LinkedIn, you'll see that one of my little tagline is "Together we can." I believe that as we all kind of try and work together, share thoughts, like there should not be a scarcity mindset. There's plenty of opportunities. We need to work together, collaborate together, share ideas. That's kind of what was really born out of that cohort that I mentioned of thinking about AI. There's been so much good value created that together absolutely. We can. Let's keep working together.
I love it. I know there's a lot of so much divisiveness and so much negativity and hate in the world right now. And I was listening to a podcast just real quickly. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was The Diary of a CEO, and it was Morgan Housel, I think is his name, but he wrote the book Psychology of Money, and he was talking about how everything goes in cycles, whether we're talking about financial cycles, like the Great Depression was obviously a rock bottom for a lot of people, but just it's very difficult to see it when you're in that negative state that it can improve and that it will, right? But if you look at history, it always has. So there's no reason we can't have optimism to collaborate and build a better world together. So that's a great note to end the episode on. So Brad Andrus, thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jamie.
It's been a blast. And to the listener, thank you for spending your most valuable resource with us, and that is your time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on From Adversity to Abundance. We hope today's episode has equipped you with valuable insights and practical advice to elevate your real estate journey. For more inspiring stories and resources, visit us at www.adversitytoabundance.com. If this episode has inspired you, please share it with a friend who could also benefit from our conversation. Together, let's turn adversity into abundance. Until next time, keep building your mental fitness and your real estate empire.